inner work, people are probably wondering, okay, what do I have to do? Now, for you, meditation is a choice. You meditate 2 hours every day,
2 hours every day.
1 hour in the morning, 1 hour in the evening.
Yeah,
It's quite a
exactly.
commitment.
Yeah.
And then the Vipassanas, you go longer, right? These are like 10 days.
Yeah, 10 days. I've done courses longer, like 20, 30 days.
And that's no talking,
No talking, you're meditating 10 hours a day.
no writing,
You're no
no.
writing, no reading, no contact with the outside world. The first thing you do when you get in there is you give them your phone and they lock it up for you to keep it safe, and you'll get it back at the end of the course so that you really get to spend time with yourself. You're separated from your loved ones. It cultivates an environment where just like a monk for basically 10 days or 20 days or however long you're there, so that you can not only learn the practice that the Buddha taught, but you can use it to your benefit, because it takes time. It's one thing to try meditation, but it's another thing to, really give yourself a long extended period to really do that inner work and release whatever has been troubling you your whole life.
I've never done one of those. We just had a guest named Mimi Icon who tried it the first time and ran away from the center, which I guess happens a lot. Tim Ferriss, who is no stranger to plant medicines, did one recently and said it was more difficult than an ayahuasca ceremony. He said around day 4 or 5, it was just counterintuitively a really, really hard place to go without chemicals or anything. And he went to some really dark places. What's going on there?
Yeah, it's actually, and it's different for every individual, right? Every individual has a very different history, a very different set of accumulated patterns. So, I don't particularly know what Tim Ferriss's story is, but we all go through different things. I remember when I did my first one of the main things I felt was such intense anxiety. And I was not really aware how often I was feeling anxiety throughout my life, but it was so accumulated where, when I got there and I did my first course, I would just feel like I'd just be flip-flopping between fear and anxiety. And it literally was just because I had settled my mind just enough, all these things that were bundled up inside of there had the opportunity to come up. And that practice is worthwhile because it actually gives you the tools to not only not reinforce them or get caught up in that storm, but really just create that space within yourself so that you can release all these things. And when you get out at the other end, I remember my first one out, I was thinking about leaving for between day 1 to like day 7. I was like, how am I going to get out of here? And luckily, I actually didn't leave because I was in the middle of Washington State, a state that I had never been in before, and I had gotten a ride there and this was before the time of Uber, so I literally had no way of getting home, and I was like, well, I'm stuck, so I got to stay, and I'm so glad that the situation worked out that way, and I stayed. And most people, like the amount of people who actually do leave during their first course is very, very small. So it's like overhyped. Like most people stay, most people finish it, and they feel fantastic at the end. But it does bring up a lot of deep things that we have to sort of have the courage to face and then let go. At the end of it, I felt like I lost like 100 pounds. I probably lost like 5 pounds, but I felt completely, it was just surreal how much better I felt. I remember calling my friends, and not only was I so much happier, but I told them, I was like, guys, I learned more in 10 days than I did in 4 years of college. That's like the only way that I could describe it.
We were talking about the author, is it Yuval Harari, that did *Sapiens* and the
Oh
rest,
yeah,
right? He goes on these 30-day meditation
yeah. He does
retreats.
one 60-day course a year. We meditate in the same tradition.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it was just fascinating. Like he was going to talk at Google and he's like, nope, I'm going for 60 days away and then I'll come back with some ideas for my book. And it was just amazing that an author would just go in there, and that's where his knowledge comes from himself, not from Google. It's so counterintuitive.
He's brilliant. Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, Yuval is incredible.
And I guess some of the thought behind this is that, for example, anxiety, you were probably experiencing it in the past, but every time you did, you could check Instagram,
Smoke a joint,
eat a donut, smoke a joint,
yeah.
watch a Netflix movie,
something to distract. Yeah.
So you would distract it, but it was still accumulating. And then when you're on your own with no other
Nothing,
distractions,
yeah.
then you have to finally face and process that stuff, right?
Yeah, and in a big way, it just felt like it was just gushing out. And I'm glad, because you think about when you actually get a wound, right? Don't they need to clean it before they wrap it up? And it's the same thing. I feel like oftentimes we're wounded so much throughout life, and we never do that work to actually clean up that wound, process it well, so that it can actually heal.